It's something that Republicans have become good at, too good at, over these past few years. If they can't win, change and rig the rules. Clearly unable to argue the actual merits of Donald Trump's conduct as laid out in the indictment in Georgia, Republicans there are now seeking to stop, by any means possible, District Attorney Fani Willis. One state senator yesterday sent a letter to Republican Georgia Governor Brian Kemp demanding he convene an emergency special session for, quote, the review and response to the actions of the DA. There have also been calls for a literal change to the state's rules as they relate to pardons, specifically the governor's ability to absolve Trump of his crimes should he be convicted by a jury of his peers. As anti-democratic as all those steps would be, good news is, at least as we sit here today, it is very unlikely that any of those measures would be successful. But again, that we're talking about them at all tells you everything you need to know about Trump's guilt and Trump's party. Joining our panel, president of the National Action Network and host of Politics Nation here on MSNBC, the Rev Al Sharpton. Rev, to me, there's something so clear in this tell that I don't know if they intend or just it's a default setting that they know he's not innocent because many of the crimes he's now been charged with committing, he committed in full view, or in the case of the Raffensperger call, on a call that was being recorded. What do you make of the fact that as one of the two major parties in the country, there's no consequence for changing the rules?
I think that it is something that is extremely troubling, that the rhetoric and the proposals, whether they pass or not in Georgia, is not even receiving the distancing, less known denunciation of leading Republican candidates. You know, there was a time when extremists were denounced by the central or mainstream candidates in either party. It is almost not only permitted, but excused by the mainstream Republican Party nominees or candidates to be nominees. Not one candidate for president, Republican, is denouncing this. So even though the crimes that are being alleged in the indictment were against Georgia, and the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, stood up, and the Secretary of State, they're not saying how obviously this is ridiculous, offensive, and anti-democratic. I mean, so what are they debating about on the 23rd? Are they debating about an autocracy or a democracy?
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, what's interesting is that this case is impossible to allege without the Trump-supporting Republicans in the state as star witnesses. So without Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger, it's very difficult to stitch together the criminal conspiracy, the enterprise that's been charged. What do you make? And listen, Kemp and I think Raffensperger both stood on both sides of the big lie when it came to Georgia's voter suppression law, which was so offensive. Major League Baseball moved the All-Star game out of the state of Georgia when that law passed. They now seem to be, again, we'll give them time to do the right thing, but they seem to be on both sides of these measures.
Well, it is interesting, and it's worth watching because I think this is an ominous development, the degree to which Republicans both in Washington and around the country have internalized the idea that legislatures can and perhaps ought to engage in obstruction of justice. You use legislative power to shut down the courts, to shut down prosecutions. I mean, that is a very, very dangerous development. But you know, just to take a step back, because John made a really interesting point in the last segment where he said that there were reasons for Donald Trump and Alex Jones and people like Steve Bannon to think that they had the power to get away with stealing the election because they had Republicans who controlled state legislatures. Imagine if all of the Republicans in places like Georgia, Arizona, the legislative leaders in Pennsylvania, key Republican officials in Michigan, what if they had gone along with Donald Trump? I think, you know, Trump thought that if you're a Republican, you know, I can demand your loyalty. In fact, they stood up to him in key places. The question is now whether the Republican Party has changed so much in the intervening years that that wouldn't happen anymore. Because if Georgia Republicans had gone along with Donald Trump, if Arizona Republicans had gone along with Donald Trump, and in Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin, we would be living in a very different political world than we are right now. So the stress test now is whether things have changed, whether the Georgia Republican-dominated legislature will say, you know, we have the power to do this, let's go ahead and do it, otherwise we'll be denounced as rhinos, or whether they will still hold the line as they did in 2020. And I think that's going to be a crucial decision.